This is Wei Zhao, and I'm going to be your instructor for today. The bow, specifically the longbow. So, with this weapon, you're really focused on long range skirmishing, whether that be against a hero or if you're just planning on targeting enemy ranged units, which is usually what you end up doing. So, if you see enemy archers, enemy gunners, you want to go up onto high ground, get up on a wall if you're defending, then you just want to start attacking those ranged units since they can't really attack back properly since they won't have the amount of accuracy that you have. One thing you want to be careful with the bow though is the amount of stamina that you use. So each time you auto attack, you actually use up your stamina. That's on top of sprinting, of rolling, and using your skills. So for your ultimate, Lightning Bolt and Exploding Arrow. Exploding Arrow is more used than Lightning Bolt just because of the amount of CC that you could use. And if you see a lot of ranged units, they have lighter armor. Using Exploding Arrow will deal a lot of damage to those units and most likely end you with some kills. Or if anything, if you see a shield formation, enemy unit's shield formation, you could use Exploding Arrow to break that apart and it'll just allow your team to push forward or to just, with your ranged units, to start attacking the enemy team hiding behind those shields. Lightning Bolt essentially pierces through those shields and attacks the units behind those shields. So if they have a lot of units hiding behind a shield wall, Lightning Bolt will go through that shield wall and penetrates two targets. So although that could be very viable, Exploding Arrow is just commonly more used just for its CC. In terms of other skills, you have Flaming Arrow. This is one that a lot of people use because just for the extra effect, as you could see, that it knocks enemies off their horse. So if you're long range and you see someone running, or if you see someone sprinting with their horse to start an attack, or to start a charge, you just use Flaming Arrow to knock them off of their horse. And that just essentially buys your team more time to react to what they're doing or to catch up to someone who's running away. Rain of Arrows is a really good skill, especially when you're targeting ranged units. As you can see, it just fires multiple arrows at once. Bodkin tipped arrows, again, another mainly used skill. It just reduces the defense by 30%. And sometimes it reduces block. Marksman 3, not really used, just because for 15 seconds, it'll have the same power as a charged shot. So you could just click and it'll have the same power. Although this is good in terms of just damage output, you're essentially just waiting your cooldowns off. Instead of waiting for your stamina to get back up, you know, you don't have to charge your bow. So you're just doing damage output. But again, you're playing longbow. The only time I would use marksman is if I'm skirmishing. And if I end up skirmishing with someone in front of me, then that means they've broken through front line since I should be at the back, just focused on targeting long range units or long range heroes or assisting wherever need be. Sharp exit is also a really good skill just because, like I said, with the other skill, if someone's right in front of you, you could just use sharp exit to hopefully start running away or to allow your teams to come to you and assist. So light footed is also another escape. However, as you can see, if you have light footed and sharp exit as two of your four skills, which I don't recommend, they will share the same cooldown. So if you use light footed, sharp exit will automatically be put on cooldown. If I'm being honest, light footed I see more than sharp exit. For the longbow, the attributes I would use, hands down, is full agility. The main reason why you want to do that is because with the longbow, you're dealing piercing damage. So with piercing damage, agility specifically, it increases your piercing damage. Whereas if you go full strength, it increases piercing penetration and slashing damage. Dual blades. So this is the assassin of the game. Essentially, you're going invisible, you're looking for an easy target or a target that you know you need to kill them, and then you go back into your invis and then just dip out. Or you go hide to a specific place, wait for your cooldowns, go back invisible, and then look for another target. So the main ultimate that you want to be using is Marked for Death. As you can see, anyone you hit will go through an animation. Essentially, they can't escape this animation. They're immediately stuck. The second ulti is a Dance of Death. The main reason why this ulti doesn't really get a lot of use is because anyone could just roll away from that. Although it looks like you're dealing a lot amount of damage, a lot of people would just rather have Mark for Death because it keeps the enemy in one place. So that'll allow your heroes or your allied heroes more specifically to come over and assist you and attack the same target that you're attacking without having to worry about them moving away. And again, since you're probably in their back line, since you're an assassin, this allows them to stay in one place and they can't go to their allies. And then you end up in a 2v1 situation. This weapon, you have two invisible skills. You have Infiltrator and you have Alchemical Vapors. Usually both are used just because they don't share the same cooldown. And you have two invisible skills. So Infiltrator, you're invisible for 30 seconds. However, you cannot sprint, you cannot jump, and you cannot go on your horse, but you could use skills. So you could go from Infiltrator and you use a skill into your ult. And essentially, people can't see you. However, if they pay close enough attention, you can see that he's not totally invisible. In the video that's playing, he's just blurred out. However, if someone's focused on the battle, no one's really looking for blurred out images. Unless you're against a team of a lot of dual blades. Now, one thing that I do want to note, when you do go into Invis, you have access to new skills. And essentially, those skills are specific to your invisible mode. You have one that'll knock down an enemy, or not necessarily knock down, but concuss an enemy or stun an enemy. You have one that will increase your movement speed for a short time. And you have one that will deal a lot of damage. So depending on the situation you're in, if you're about to sneak up on someone, then maybe you want to do the damage one and then lock them into your ult. If you're escaping, then you want to use the movement speed one. If there's a lot of people doing a lot of damage and you're essentially around your team where you don't necessarily need to deal the most amount of damage, then you maybe you want to CC them and allow your team to continue dealing damage. Along with your other skills, personally, I use Marked for Death, Infiltrator, and Alchemic Vapors. And for my fourth skill, I'll use Butterfly. Not only does it deal damage, but you could see that you actually move forward. So when you're skirmishing someone, let's say I just finished my ult and they're slowly starting to back up. Instead of sprinting at them and trying to catch up, I could use Butterfly since I move forward and I'm still dealing damage to them. The other skills in this tree is Skylark, Boken Shurikens, and Great Thunderbolt. Skylark is another damage dealing ability. However, again, you'll move forward, but you undergo an animation where people could just stun you, where people could just use a dash away from you. I would just much rather use Butterfly. Boken Shurikens is a very good skill if you're planning to skirmish a lot. 5-second cooldown, and when you're skirmishing, this skill will get up a lot. This cooldown is very fast when you're 1v1ing someone. So if you're planning to not go specifically assassin mode and maybe you want to go front line sometimes, Boken Shurikens is probably your move. Great Thunderbolt is a CC skill. As you can see, you pretty much throw a bomb that forces people to injure. The main reason why I don't use this is because I already have my ultimate for CC. And as I'm an assassin, if I'm relying on 2 CC skills, then essentially I'm not dealing enough damage, whereas I could hopefully kill them in one combo and then dip out. Go to invis and dip out. For dual blades, you have two different sets of attributes that you want to use. You either want to go full strength or full agility. Now, this really depends on what type of assassin you're looking for or what type of assassin you're trying to be. If you're consistently going to the back line looking for those longbow players, musket players, shortbow players, then you want to go full strength. The main reason for that is because you just want to deal a lot of damage in one go with your combo without having to worry about penetration. Just because if you're looking for those specific targets that I said, they shouldn't be running with a lot of armor. They're using light armor and they shouldn't have any armor attributes on. So if you're looking to deal CC front lines and assist your team while still being able to do a decent amount of damage, then you could go full strength. The next weapon that I want to go over is the shortbow. So for shortbow, you can't really hit units from a far distance compared to longbow, but each shot that you do with an auto attack with shortbow doesn't use stamina compared to longbow. And the draw time for your shortbow is very small. So you're essentially tagging heroes or units and you're pretty much annoying them at that point. So there's a lot of different builds that I've seen for short bows. So it really depends as soon as you pick up this weapon, what type of short bow do you want to be? What's your play style? If you like heavy damage, then there's a lot of builds with heavy damage. If you like CC, if you like a support, there's a lot of different builds that you could do. So the two ultimates, Angry Hornets and Wrath of Artemis, are always interchangeable. If I'm being honest, I see Angry Hornets used a lot just because it's just 7 arrows hailed at once. Whereas Wrath of Artemis, as you could see, is pretty much 5 arrows launched, one after the other. Angry Hornets is usually just used more just because if they're CC'd, you could essentially punish them for being CC, whether that be you landing your skill and you're rewarding yourself by dealing more damage with Angry Hornets, because it actually drains 120 health per second since it adds a poison effect with Angry Hornets. One of the other main skills that people use is Throw Bola. Essentially, this is one of your CC skills where it knocks people down to the ground. And also with the extra effect, similar to the flaming arrow with the longbow, the shortbow will dismount people from their horse, whether that be they're charging or they're running away or they're just standing still on their horse for some reason. You could punish them and dismount them by landing your throw bola. Stunning shot is also another well used skill just because it's another CC skill. Steel tipped arrow is also a well used skill because it pierces damage and it reduces the enemy's defenses by 20%, however, for only 2 seconds. So as soon as you land your steel tipped arrow, you're usually using the skill after they're CC'd. That way you could fully utilize those 2 seconds and not miss any of your other attacks after it. Poison arrow doesn't really get used much unless you're planning to utilize the specific rune for shortbow. So for the shortbow, there's a rune that pretty much enhances your poison arrow and it makes it a little bit more viable. Parting shot is an escape ability whereas while you're escaping, you throw or you launch 3 arrows. The main reason why people don't really use this is because of the other escape ability, which is rolling escape. As you can see, it removes concussion and dazed effects, and it increases movement speed by 15 seconds. Now, another thing that this skill doesn't show right off the bat is the fact that you could actually dodge enemy skills. For example, if an enemy is using a skill that requires an animation, you could use rolling escape, and since you're technically on the ground, as you can see with the animation, it forces the enemy to miss. For the short bow, the four skills that a lot of people run is throw bola, stunning shot, sometimes steel tipped arrow with your rolling escape. The three skills that you want to keep is rolling escape, stunning shot, and throw bola, since they're your three main abilities. Now the fourth skill is always interchangeable depending on what type of short bow you want to be. However, the main fourth skill that people use is an ultimate, Angry Hornets. Even though Angry Hornets is an ultimate, it does not mean you have to use it. There's a lot of builds where you don't have to use an ultimate, and specifically for shortbow, sometimes people are using poison arrow instead because of that rune, or they're using steel tipped arrow. Since you have two CC skills with your stunning shot and throw bola, steel tipped arrow shouldn't be hard to land. In terms of attributes, you want to just go full agility to maximize your piercing damage. Now with shortbow, the one thing that you also want to keep in mind is you have a hidden passive where each time you roll, you have increased effects, which stacks up to 3 times. So you want to consistently make sure that you have those stacks ready. And when you're in a game, it'll specifically show those stacks to the left of your crosshair. I hope you enjoyed and thanks for watching.